Hey guys, JC Smith here. Well, today is going to be maintenance day. It's time for oil change on this one, oil, filter, tire rotation, and a look over for winter. And a friend of mine was here today. He says, "Man, what'd you do? Why'd you go and buy a brand new jack? You already had one." Or I had two actually, and I'll show you why. I got to rotate tires. I don't have a lift, so one jack across the back, one jack on each side, and now I can rotate the tires pretty quick, pretty fast, without having to do one side at a time, block it up and all that stuff, because I crisscross the non-drive tires. So I'll take the drive tires will go straight back, the non-drives will come to the opposite corners. That's the way I like to rotate tires. Everybody's got their own way. Doesn't matter how you do it, do what you like. We're going to top off the fluids, check the air filter, we'll load test the battery, we'll make sure it's all as in good a shape as it can be for winter. We're getting some miles on this thing. I think, what's the miles on this now? I don't know. 140, I think. And we drive this more than we do the other one. Here recently I just put new struts and springs in on both front corners, some tie rods, some other stuff. So it handles pretty well, but alright, let's get to work. I think you can see the source of our oil leak here. That's the O-ring for the drain plug. So I just went in my drawer of parts and I have assortment O-rings, so we'll go ahead and replace it. Hopefully it's thick enough, because it has to fill that little groove down in there. It looks like it's going to be enough, but I guess we'll see. Alright, let's put it in. Okay, so the van calls for 5W20, but that's apparently when it's new. So I use Napa's 5W30. It's a synthetic blend, and this is made by the Ashland Oil Company. So basically you're getting Valvoline. Yeah, look there, Valvoline, and it does alright. I don't have any troubles with it, so I got the cap here. So we're going to put 5 quarts in it, and then we're going to get on to greasing and rotating tires. Okay, so we're going to rotate the tires. Here's the front one. This is the driver's front, and this is driver's rear. So there is obviously a difference in tread depth between the two. I mean, it's noticeable, but it's not horrible. It's probably maybe a 1/16th, a couple 30 seconds. But we bought these tires, we probably put, this is probably the 4th oil change on these tires, because we change oil, we put these tires on, we went to Florida. We come back and did an oil change, because we drove over 3,000 miles on our way to Florida and back, and then we change oil again and one more time. So 1, 2, 3. So really we got probably around 10,000 miles on them so far. So I don't know if they're wearing well or if they're wearing okay, but they are even. There's no feathering, there's no abnormal wear, which is always good. So we'll go ahead and rotate them, and then I'll go ahead and look at the brakes, which I just looked at these and they're good. We'll grease it. I replaced the stabilizer links from the strut down to the sway bar when I did the struts, and I did the tie rods, so they're all greasable, so we'll grease them things too. Alright, so here's the back, and the rear brake pads are in really great shape. I did these I did them at the same time as the tires, so about 10,000 miles ago. Now what I did notice is that shock's wet, and I'll have to replace that soon. Knowing I'll need to replace that, I'll start spraying these bolts that go into the body mount up here. I'll start spraying them now, so the next oil change we'll change them out. So I'll keep hitting them with PB Blaster. Hopefully they'll come out, because those go into that bracket right there, and there's not really any good access to the back, I don't think. I could be wrong, but anyhow, I'll start hosing them down. I'll grab some blaster, and then I'll put this back together, and I'll put some never sees on here. And I must have replaced this hub at that time. I don't remember doing that, but it sure looks like I did. It'd been all at the same time, that's for sure. But I'll put some never sees between here and the aluminum wheel and the studs for winter. So that's where we're at now. Get the tire on. Of course, after that, you want to torque to spec, right?
I don't know.
Come on. Don't use the battery-powered torque wrench. You should use an actual torque wrench so you get the right torque on them. You don't want to lose a wheel going down the road, do you?
I don't.
Well, I really dislike chrome lug nuts. Because they're always the same. They get rusty as soon as you hit them with an impact socket once or twice. They chip the chrome off, they get rusty, they get stuck in your socket, or you gotta beat the socket on. I think we replaced all these, didn't we?
I don't think so.
This isn't the one.
I don't think so.
Alright. Let's see what we got for brakes here. Man, that sun's in the way.
I know, I was trying to
Stand over here in front of it. Yeah, it's better. Alright, so those brakes are good. That shock is not leaking, but I'll go ahead and spray it too, because we'll do both of them. And the only reason we're not doing it now is because the parts store is closed. And I'm not going to leave this apart. I can do that later pretty quick. And it's not really a safety issue. It still rides good. It's just leaking a little bit. So, okay, let's get the front one off now. Okay, a little bit of never sees on the old studs. I really do not like never sees. I really don't. You know, you have to be very sparing with this stuff because, as you know, you get something on you, get some of it on you, and man, before you know it, it's everywhere. And I like to be conservative using it because it doesn't take a lot. You know, I don't need big gobs everywhere. But it is kind of a faulty design on the tube. You would think they would just make this like a squeeze tube, because every time you push this in, you push the brush tips and it bends them all. And then it always gets around the edge, and I try and wipe it off and keep it clean, but next thing you know, you'll find never sees in all the places you didn't want it. Okay, I need the grease gun, and we'll grease this real quick and put that back together. Okay, so the brakes are getting low on the front, and there's probably at least one more oil change, possibly two, but on the next oil change we'll do the front brakes on this, if we still have it. It's getting at the point we got 140-some thousand miles on it, and you know, might be time to send her out to pasture. Let somebody else get some use out of it. And we don't need all these vehicles, do we?
No.
We could probably get rid of 4 vehicles that, 4? Wait, 1, 2, 3? 3 of them?
Yeah.
That we don't need. Okay.
Probably 3.
So I went to go grease this stabilizer link here because I replaced this when I did these, and for whatever reason, this grease fitting, that little ball that stops the grease from coming out, will not move. So I'm going to have to change it, and so I can grease it. But front brakes next time, there's a quarter left, about a quarter of the pad left. And you know, we used to turn rotors, but it's just not cost effective anymore. I mean, basically I can go in and get brand new rotors for just a couple dollars more than they charge to cut them. I'm sure that's by design now, they're charging more, because we used to cut these things for $6, or I just take them in and then they'd let me use the machine, and I just cut them myself. But you know, they don't want to cut them anymore. So we just buy new ones. And what we learned about taking all those loads of scrap in is that these are worth about $2.50 at the scrapyard when you separate them. So I guess it's like the same as cutting one, only you have all new thickness. And as far as the pads go, we'll get Napa rotors, Napa pads, and then if the calipers go in smooth and the slides work, we'll leave them alone. If not, we'll put calipers on. So I'm gonna go grab another grease fitting, put it in there, change it out, and then we'll put this back together. When I put never seize on a wheel, this is where it gets stuck on this. The wheel itself gets stuck on this cast iron part. It usually doesn't get stuck out here. This usually isn't the problem. So I don't paint the whole thing with never seize because it's kind of pointless. These usually get stuck right here on this particular van. So that's why you see there's just never seize there. So when I get another one, I'll get it in and we'll bring it back when we're done. Okay, we're gonna check the air in the tires too. For some reason, this one, the tire pressure monitor always says there's a low tire. And I don't know how sensitive it is, because that one was 32. Yeah, this one's 34 right there. I usually put 35 in them. It doesn't take much. Let's get the other side too. See what it's showing. These ones are missing caps. Let me get some caps. Ah, this is the one right here. 28. Boy, you sure wouldn't air up one of them 22.5s this fast, would you? Takes forever to air them up. There's 35 on that one. We'll have to get a couple more valve stem caps. Then there's one less thing. That's it. This is a pretty handy little tire gauge here. I've had this for years. I think this is Blue Point or Snap-on, one of them. It's it'll air up regular tires, duals, and then in this little sight glass here, it tells you what the pressure is. When you let off the handle, it tells you what the pressure in the tire is. Pretty handy little gig. I think I've had that for probably 20-some years. There's our oil change stickers. We got them from our buddy at Napa. How long ago was that?
I don't know.
Long time. But it tells you if you did the oil filter, air filter, and fuel filter all at the same time. So you know the last time you did it, which air filter's fine, the fuel filter's fine. It'll be alright. Alright, I guess that will be it for this one. Hopefully it'll make it through the winter. And now we'll get on the next one. Number 2 for the day. This is our old Mercury Mountaineer. We keep this around. This thing's only got 80,000 miles on it or something like that. It's all-wheel drive. It's really nice to have around the winter time. It's due for an oil change and a look over for winter. All the same stuff we just did on the Caravan. You know, a little bit about this thing. Back in the day when I got this, I did a bunch of work. I did, man, I can't remember. I know I did rear struts and coil springs, drive shaft, both rear wheel bearings, maybe front brakes. I can't recall now, but anyways, it needed tires not too long after we got it, and these tires were on my truck. These are 245/75 17s. Now these are load range E truck tires, so you can imagine what they ride like. We only put 35 pounds of air in them, but you know, they are what they are. The truck they were on was a Ford independent front suspension, so it had some cupping, and the guy that had the truck before me did not rotate the tires much. So they had some cupping on them, and unfortunately this vehicle is not heavy enough to really wear any cupping out. So they're just kind of staying the same. These were the back ones, and they begin to get a little bit of a feather going on the inside edge now, just from you know, being on this thing. So we're gonna change oil, rotate tires, grease it, look it over, all that good stuff too. So let's get at it. Another one done. Heading home, she's gonna grab her van and we'll get going on it. Okay, number 3 for today. Oil change, rotation on the tires, front brakes, and look over for winter. Get it ready. I don't think this thing really goes anywhere in the winter anyways, but I guess we'll have it ready. So let's get at it. We'll bring you along if we find anything worth noting. Otherwise, we'll show you when we're done. See that cap right here? That's the cap to the oil filter. It's a canister type. You know, you take the lid off like the Ford Super Duties on the 6.0s. You got to take that off and replace the cartridge and put the cap back on. And I usually use a Napa Gold filter for this. I really don't like these canister ones because they make such a mess. You know, what you're seeing wet is brake parts cleaner. I'll let it soak and I'll take my blowgun and I'll blow it all dry. That way I'm not seeing any things like drips down below that would make me think there's a leak, you know, so I like to keep it clean. This one also says, this one says 5W30. I think I use 5W30 in all the vans, even the ones that say 5W20, because the ones that say 5W20 have over 100,000 miles on them. So I just go ahead and use the little bit thicker. That way they're all the same, and I prefer a little bit thicker oil with the over 100,000. This one's got low miles, so we'll stick with the 5W30. I don't know if we'll go any thicker with this. Who knows? By the time we hit 100,000 miles on this, it'll probably be 20 years old. So, all right, let's get the oil back in it. What you doing, lady?
Just taking the wheels off.
Taking the wheels off what?
My van. That's what you get for recording me all over.
So tell me what you're doing here.
I'm taking the wheels off so we can rotate the.
So you're holding the tire. Why are you holding the?
Because it's moving.
Okay, so where are you going to rotate this one to?
I don't know, wherever you tell me. Probably up there or over there. I have one more option, so. Oh, this one's stuck.
You know what to do?
Get a pry bar.
Do you think your arms are as strong as your foot?
No,
Heel?
I can't do it.
Maybe the heel. Maybe that would work.
So where's it going? Other side?
Passenger side front. Are you looking at it to make sure you ain't got no weird wear or any screws in it or anything?
No, that's your job. Looks fine to me.
You ain't even looking.
Yes, I am. I'm looking at it while I'm rolling it. Looks fine.
Keep rolling. Make sure it's 100% good. Yeah, it's fine. Alright, just lay that one down.
I don't think I can get it off of there.
Just give it a kick with your heel. Not there, on the side. Lady. Come on, you can do it. You're tough. Look at that. I knew you could. Straight back. There'll be a test on this later.
Looks fine.
Alright, lay it down. So don't roll away. I don't think you're off the ground enough, lady.
I was.
That'll do. That'll do.
I don't think I...
think what?
I didn't think I was gonna get it.
Man, I don't even know why I do this stuff anymore.
Which side?
Driver's side front. Look at you, checking it as you roll. Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. Man, you're a fast checker.
Yeah.
It takes me a lot longer to check them tires than it does you. You should try to do it more often. Just lay it down. Alright, next one.
Of course it's not one. Which? Back there?
Straight back. So we need to look at the brakes. Make sure they're good. They are. Alright, we need to get a little never sees around here, so grab a wire brush real quick, we'll clean that up, and then we'll get some never sees on. Let's check these brakes here. Yeah, they're still good. It needs front brakes, so I don't know if we'll do that or not. Yeah, we're gonna do them now. I don't know if you guys can see that, but they're getting kind of low. So, you don't need to clean that one because it's putting rotors on. We have to clean that up after we do the rotors. Yeah, we're doing pads and rotors. Okay. Alright, that looks good. Alright, let's get to work. 34 is what you're after. 34, 35, something like that. A little bit more. Squeeze the trigger.
Oh.
What then?
Shut up.
What up? No, not on the thing, just on the trigger. Look, you're leaking. There you go. Now, what do you got? Let's see. Give it a little more. Put up. A little more. That's good. Go to the next one. Yeah, you'll have to know how to do this, or someday I can't do it. Or don't wanna. You think that'll happen?
The don't wanna? Yeah.
Alright, what do you got? Well, you gotta hold that on there straight. Like that.
I don't know. I don't have my glasses on.
Give it some more.
Tell.
Let up. A little more. Let up. That'll do. So those two were really close, so that shouldn't have turned the light on. Wonder which one it is. They're so sensitive.
So that's why when you asked me why I was doing it, I didn't know what to tell you. This one has...
That one's dead on.
A lot.
That one's good. So you had one that was right on so far, and the other two are low. Can you see that? Let up. A little more. Let up. That'll do. Alright, so look at that. She already put never sees on the back and on the studs. Brakes are good. Alright, let's put the wheels on. Okay, so let's get on these brakes. Screwdriver here. I took the two 13mm bolts out of here. That's what holds the caliper on. I'll just pull this up out of here. We weren't having any troubles with this, just, the brake pads are low. So we should be able to just pull this apart, push the piston back in, and put new rotors on. And we're doing new rotors not because they're too thin, because I never even measured them. It's just because the fact that in today's auto parts, out by us they charge, for what they charge to turn these rotors, for just a few dollars more, I can get brand new ones. So it's kind of pointless. So we're just going to replace them. Alright, so this tool is an OTC caliper, piston return tool, whatever you want to call it. I've had this for a long time, and the whole idea here is, you're not using too much force to push this in. It's just a scissor deal. So if you can turn that this is just a roll pin basically. If you can turn it with 2 fingers, well obviously that piston and that caliper is not seized. You know, we want it to go, make sure it goes in nice and easy. Oh boy, is that tough. I might have to get something else on that, I think. Yep, I'm gonna have to get something else here. But usually when the pads are real thin, there's not enough thickness and this won't spread apart far enough to push the piston all the way in. And I usually push it in real slow and let it do its thing. A lot of guys will say if it's ABS brakes, you need to crack the bleeder loose so that you're not shoving all that fluid back into the ABS. I've never had that problem with any of the brakes I've done, so I suppose if I ever did, then I would crack the bleeder, but I haven't, and it's worked out okay, so I'm just going to continue my way, how this does. Let me grab another wrench here. I'll be right back. Okay, I got them broke loose. They're coming out with my finger now. I didn't see any thread locker on these. I was surprised by that. Most of the time on Fords you see thread locker on the caliper mounting bracket bolts. I don't know. Yeah. Okay, so again, we're gonna take this apart, these slides. We'll clean all that old crap up. Can you see that? Mm-hmm. We'll take that, we'll get something down in here, we'll clean the inside of this real good. We'll put some new grease down in here, we'll clean these slides up, and alright, so this is as far as it's going to go right now. So the pads aren't thick enough. Let me grab that. I'll be right back. Just hang on. I've already done the other side, so I'll just take the old pads from the other side and stuff them in there to make up a little bit of thickness. Just shove it in there. And that'll do. And finish pushing it in the rest of the way. Yeah, you can push that in about any way you want. Doesn't really matter. Do it however you like, right? Cover your ears. Try not to smash the studs. Sometimes you can get pretty close. I think I might have, I just bumped the edge of that one. But sometimes, you know, you can see the rust here. I don't think it was stuck here. I think it was stuck right in here. You know, so we'll clean all this up in here. The wire brush, we'll clean this up, and then we'll put some never sees on here and here. So next time it might be a little easier to get off. So let me get this all cleaned up. We'll bring it back. Okay, so here's our new rotor. Probably most of you have done this before. You know, they put this anti-rust coating on here. Just take some of this brake parts cleaner, clean it off real good. I usually just clean this surface. I don't clean this stuff because I'd rather it doesn't rust in there. You know, flip it over and kind of stand it up, plastic out of the way, and then do the other side. That's my favorite brake parts cleaner, by the way. It sprays with some real force, you know. And then you can see on here, I don't know, this has been, man, years and years they've been doing this. This is what's called a non-directional finish on here. After they machine this, basically they take a wheel spinning like this and they spin the rotor also, so you don't get that record finish on it, and that helps keep the squealing down, so we don't have that as much. So okay, let's get ready to put it on. Okay, now next I need to clean up these slides right here. You know, a lot of times they'll come with these new stainless inserts, but for some reason this one didn't. And, you know, I didn't buy the El Cheapo brake pads, which I know I never do. But sometimes, I know in all the Super Duty stuff, it comes with new hardware, the brake pads I get. But these must not be as critical, I guess. Or as prone to fail, maybe, I don't know. Trying to get these crevices cleaned out of here, you know, if you don't get all the crap out of there. Brake pad gets stuck. Well, it's going to be horrible sound because that wind's blowing pretty good. Okay, now I'm going to go clean up the pins and the holes and get them greased up, so we'll bring you back when I'm ready to put it together. So the slides are all cleaned up. I got never sees on the brake pad slides, and we'll stick this back in place. And the bracket here. This is usually there you go. Anyways, so I'll run them in finger tight, both of them. I'm just surprised there's no Loctite on them. I mean, I don't think it's necessary, but most everybody else does. They put Loctite on them. If it made it this far without Loctite, pretty sure we'll be alright. Okay, so here's my brake pads. I spray them with this Napa Disc Brake Quiet, and really it's like some really sticky high tack, and it kind of keeps the pads stuck to the caliper so they don't rattle as much. At least I think that's the claim to fame.
Ooh, that wind.
You know where you wouldn't hear this wind?
Where?
Is if you're working in a shop with lights.
No, you'd hear it. You wouldn't feel it.
Maybe. Alright. Okay, let's make sure this caliper's in all the way before I go and try this. I think it is. That's still going. It looks like it bottomed out. It went in nice, smooth, and easy. We weren't having any troubles with the calipers, just the brake pads were low. So, yeah, we'll put this back in. Make sure we don't twist up the brake hose. Like it was meant to be. So all I gotta do is tighten up my bolts. Can't forget my mounting bolts too. So let me get all this tightened up and we'll bring you back when it's tight. So the last thing we did was tightened our caliper mounting bolts here, and the caliper mounting bracket bolts to the spindle, and then the caliper bolts themselves. So tighten them up to factory specs there. The next thing we got to do is, because we push that caliper in, you see we got some room in here. You need to be sure you press the brake pedal a few times. You just stay here and watch this. I'll go pump the brake pedal so that both them pistons expand. Pump that a few times till you get a hard pedal. That way you're pushing that caliper piston out, so when you go to back up, you don't hit the brakes the first time. It goes almost to the floor, you know, because it has to, that first pump's going to have to move those, the first few pumps will have to move the piston out. You won't have any brakes. You get that panic stop. So you want to make sure you do that first. Alright, now we're going to jack it up. We're going to, I need to get some never sees on my studs here. Man, that wind is something. Doesn't take a lot of never sees. You know, I can't tell you the number of things I've taken apart that, you know, they've had a mountain of never sees on them. You know, it looks like I'm putting a lot on, but actually what I'm doing is I'm taking a brush and I'm taking some off. That's something.
Yeah, the high tomorrow is only supposed to be 56.
Alright, let's get the jacks, get this thing up in the air, and get the wheels on. Okay, this side's done. So you just rinse and repeat. I don't want anybody to think I only did one side. We did both sides. They're both done. We're all ready to go back together now. So let's get it back together. Alright, something I better mention. I showed you how to make sure you pump the brake pads out before you moved it, but you need to keep in mind when you do that, alright, it allowed the rotor to shift. Can you see how it's not sitting flat here? So when you go to torque your wheel, put your wheel back on, you're going to want to check it. You know, you want to make sure it's good and tight and that your rotor's flat. You know, this one slid right back in because the caliper released a little bit and it was able to flatten out. So you just want to be careful of that. I don't remember what the torque spec is on this, but it's probably, I'm guessing it's about 100 foot-pounds with a torque wrench, you know. But, you know, you just want to make sure that's good and flat. So let me get this wheel on, we're just about done. Okay guys, so the silver van is now done. We got everything handled on it. And I went ahead and checked the oil on this, and I got to tell you, it's very clean. You know, I was hoping to run it for a while and, you know, do some internal engine cleaning and then drain it, refill it, put some more miles on it. But it's still clean. So I'm going to let it go for a little while longer. I'm going to keep an eye on it, just keep checking it, see when it starts to get a little dirty, or if it looks like it's going to get dirty. If it isn't dirty by 1,000 miles, I'm going to go ahead and drain it anyways. But that's it. That's our maintenance day. We'll be working on the shop now. I got some, in fact, I just took the truck to go get some lumber, so I'll bring you along for that. But that's it for this one. You guys like what we're doing, give us a thumbs up. I do appreciate it. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and leave your comments down below, guys. We'll catch you on the next one.